It is our pleasure to be joined by the athletic director of the University of Oklahoma, Mr. Joe Castiglione is in the house. Josie, what's going on, man?
What do you say, Gabe and Teddy? I get to be with you all a lot during the football season and obviously see you quite often outside of it, but this is a rare honor and I appreciate being on with you.
Appreciate you taking the time. I mean, you don't have anything going on right now, right? There's nothing happening out there in your world.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe the phone calls I got just before I got on the podcast with you.
Well, probably a daily occurrence, I imagine.
Oh,
I,
yes, for sure.
Joe, I wanted to start with football because that's what clearly what we focus on the most here on the podcast. And you guys have gone all in on building out this front office for football with hiring Jim Nagy as the general manager and for lack of a better term, kind of professionalizing that area of the program. What has that process been like for you?
Well, we recognized that our world was moving toward a professionalized type of model. I don't want to convey that it's fully professional. There are so many other elements that we don't have, and we still recruit, and we'll talk about that for in a second, but versus drafting. But we understood this it was evolving over the last few years. You know, the role that NIL has played was not necessarily the role that was intended when it was launched 3 years ago, but we are where we are. The fact remains that we have a dynamic world going on between how we used to recruit the high school player, the impact of the portal, which just a little over a year ago had some rules to it, and then uh, more legal battles ensued, and now we have basically an unregulated free agency type of market, and that requires people to focus on this all year long. And so, as the rules evolved, we certainly were evolving our thinking and, most importantly, our actions as quickly as we could. You remember last summer, we um, we hired Jake Rosenberg, who is the associate general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles, and he helped us put together this process. Was very involved from that point in the summer all through the fall, as well as through our both recruiting and the portal work that we did following the regular season. And he assisted in our search for a full-time general manager, which resulted in hiring Jim Nagy. We could not be more excited about him, and we could talk about that. But recognizing where this is for the football coach. And we've got a terrific coach, as you know, is a great talent evaluator, has been an elite recruiter for as long as we've ever known Coach Venables. And that's still a very important element in how we identify those that are going to be best on our roster and then evaluate where their roles are going to be placed. The whole scouting, the work that has to be done around an evolving capped environment. So you have the player personnel area that's taken on a whole different type of meaning than it's ever had. So we see this now as, two really independent but collaborative pieces of our football program. And that's the key, that it have to be collaborative. There's just too much for a football coach to do. He still has to stay actively involved, and there's no better closer or relationship builder than Coach Venables and a staff that he's assembled. But now with Jim on board, he's bringing in an elite level understanding, having worked with several NFL teams. He's been a scout. Obviously, he's been working between the NFL and pro market as he developed the newest version of the Senior Bowl and all the recruiting and individual conversations with agents. We could not have found a better person than Jim to come in and work with us. So uh, I think you're going to see, more and more of this evolve in a way that is going to streamline our activities all throughout the year. And of course, the general manager can assist the coach in a number of other areas. We're more involved in the analytics and hiring people that will be focused on that on a day-to-day basis, along with the personnel staff that will be looking at high school and portal. I would liken this, Gabe, to how an NFL personnel department sets it up between the draft and the scouting they do for players coming forward that they can access each spring, and then the free agent market. And so, the recruiting of the high school players and the portal sort of, have some symmetry to both of those.
You kind of have two tents right now. You've got the ever-changing transfer portal and NIL and how all that is evolving and changing. And then you've got the football part of it, which for us is even a little bit more dramatic than it's been for others moving conferences. But how do you see the future playing out in the SEC for, I know there's been talk about 9 conference games. I know there's been talk about changing the playoff format. What do you see the next few years looking like in that regard?
We're still talking about the conference regular season schedule. So that question I'll address first. I think there'll have to be a decision made late spring, early summer about an additional conference game. And we're going to have to start planning for 26, pretty soon. Uh, Now we'll come back to that in a second, but I think the college football playoff expansion and our view of an additional conference game, along with what we require in the non-conference, are really inextricably linked. And we've only had 1 year, so it's a small sample size. But uh, the programs that play more high level, top 10, top 15, top 25 teams through the course of the regular season should be evaluated as such. We knew going into an expanded playoff format that that should have incentivized programs to strengthen their schedule. And those that were involved in the debate all talked about that. But if you recall, quickly coming out of uh, this first expanded playoff format, and some of the schools that didn't get access to it, and some of the debate that has ensued, some of the coaches now have made mention that it doesn't matter what a team faces in the non-conference portion; they're just going to focus on playing conference games. That's created a lot of confusion. And I don't know that that's the healthiest for football, where there aren't crossover games that create interest amongst the college football fan base. We know we're playing in a tough conference. Several other conferences are tough too, but we want to be sure that the adding the ninth conference game is going to be valued appropriately. Sometimes the shinier record ends up, catching people's eyes more so than the quality of teams that have been part of that record. And there's some questions about that, Teddy. So I think as we go through this spring and early summer, we're trying to get more information. And you saw just last week where the commissioners met. They did not take any action, but they're talking about some modifications to the playoff format and the seeding process for next year. The one we just completed had automatic qualifiers getting the top 4 spots. I didn't think that was the right way. Getting an automatic bid into the playoff, sure, but not necessarily automatically being one of the top four. I think once the AQs are determined, that the seed list should be evaluated, from 1 to 12, regardless of the way someone accessed that um, top 12 team format. So I think that has to be looked at. And so for the SEC, however, we are looking now. This is the last of the previous year college football playoff, and there's talk that they'll make some additional changes going forward. One of which, as I've read, I don't have any inside scoop for you, but read whether the playoff would expand again beyond 12 teams. I can't handicap how the chances are of that happening, but it at least has been a talking point that I've heard in various conversations this winter.
Clearly, the House settlement and the revenue sharing era of college athletics that is coming is a massive shakeup for what you've been doing for a long, long time. Joe, what has the preparation for this new era of college athletics? What has the preparation been like for you and your staff?
I've heard all kinds of analogies. We're trying to fly the plane before it's even built, where there's just all kinds of ways people have described this process. We're sitting here, basically 2.5 months from the time the settlement terms are supposed to take effect, and we still don't have the structure fully approved. I understand it's complicated, and it's requiring a lot of extra Zoom calls, with the membership to try to, make sure we understand how it's going to be implemented, but it's not done yet. And yet we're, supposed to have our process, completely in place. What I can tell you, Gabe, is that we previously announced, that we're going to distribute as much of our revenue share as permitted by the House case. Um, the percentage is about 22%, and that equates to 20.5 million. Um, uh, we are adding scholarships, and and every SEC school is doing the same thing. So new scholarship dollars count against the cap up to 2.5 million. And our distribution formula will follow the formula that Judge Wilkin is using in uh, allocating the damages to the class. And so you've heard the 75, 15, 5 and 5%, or 75, 15 and 10%, either way. We're following that in our rev share. So it'll be comparable to what we believe every other SEC school is doing. And we're going to continue to invest in our program, and most importantly, our athletes, the best way we can. Um, in addition to that, we are basically remaking our entire compliance operation, because there's going to be a significant amount of work that will take place in partnering with our athletes as they have opportunities to get involved in um, name, image, and likeness activities beyond their rev share portion. That process will be completely different than what we've experienced the last 3 years. They'll have to submit um, their proposals to a clearinghouse, if you will, and the proposal will be returned, and it'll either be approved or not approved, and they'll provide some information if it's not approved, and help the athlete resubmit it. And they'll be monitoring, to make sure that these uh, new activities follow a fair market value um, metric. And they've collected data for the last 6 to 7 months. And so this is an entirely new operation. Part of that too, Gabe and Teddy, there's a entirely new enforcement model. The enforcement model for NIL activities will not come from the NCAA. It's separate. And we're still getting all the details of that. But that will be um, an approach that we've not seen in college athletics. It will be swift. In other words, it's not going to take 4 or 5 years to look into these matters. We're told that the uh, group will have subpoena power, and they investigate deals that are not part of, or at least not consistent with the rules that are in place. And then the penalties will be extended by this group in a more of a real-time manner. So if you think about what's going on there, we have to get ourselves ready for all of that. And the world in which we're in, we're setting ourselves up now to be more active in trying to create opportunities for the athletes in the name, image, and likeness space. In the past, we've been calling businesses, asking them, setting up forums so we can go visit. We've been raising money that could go to a collective, but we've really not been able to be involved to that extent. So it's a big, big shift. And we've been preparing for a while, and we'll be ready to go July 1st when it gets launched.
Um, there's a lot of people that feel like even if, it, this thing's going to be happening quick, but even when that does get implemented, there's still the worry of any type of lawsuit that could pop up here or there that could, directly affect that. It where and I know there was a time when there was a strong pursuit of permanent legislation. Is that still ongoing? And ultimately, does that have to happen for this model to work?
Teddy, we'd be naive if we didn't think uh, we won't receive legal challenges going forward. Uh, Everybody expects that. There's still a lot that has not been resolved. The bulk of this case that Judge Wilkin will rule on is about back damages. And the negotiation resulted in an agreement between basically college athletics and the plaintiff's lawyers of 2.78, just call it 2.8 billion, that will be distributed to former athletes that were part of the class action lawsuit. While we were negotiating that um, settlement, the lawyers representing the major conferences all uh, tried to get as much of a structure that could be codified and supported in the federal court so it could be implemented with some level of protection. And that's where the revenue share concept developed. That's where the percentage was negotiated. That's where we start talking about the removal of scholarship limitations that have been historically put on by the NCAA. Um, those will go away as part of the settlement and several other things. So we know as soon as it gets implemented, there'll be uh, more legal challenge. Heck, there are people trying to challenge it right now before it even gets approved by the judge. And tomorrow, well, when we're recording this podcast anyway, April 7th is the first day the judge could rule on the settlement. She may rule that day, she may not. She may make some comments about it. We'll just have to see. So when people are watching this podcast, they may have some real-time information that we don't have when we're recording this. So, Teddy, I think it is going to be still a bumpy ride for us going forward. The bottom line for us is what it's always been. What do we do? What can we do to put our athletes in the best position to be successful, and the coaches who are recruiting and motivating, teaching and developing them? That's where our focus is, and all the structure, all the planning, everything we're doing is geared toward being at the forefront of that.
I know that the future of the basketball programs has been a big topic of conversation over the last year or two, especially Jenny Bronchek and the women coming off a great tournament run. Porter Moser and the men made the tournament, and everyone's just wondering what's the future of the arena? Like, what's the latest on that entire situation, Joe?
You talking about the entertainment district?
The entertainment district. What a just
Right.
amazing label.
Well, it is. It's a one over a $1 billion entertainment district. Obviously, there's a new arena as part of it. So, for those really quick refresher, we've spent the better part of 2 years working with everybody throughout our community, county, city, chamber of commerce. We've been part of an untold number of public forums. We've been in front of the city council. We've worked with planners, zoning, everybody that could be involved between the developer and the municipal entities. That all resulted in a vote by the city council to move forward positively. There was an option for those who opposed it to collect signatures and try to uh, force this to a public vote. They did collect signatures. They were submitted. There was a process of validating the signatures that resulted in another uh, legal discussion, and the judge voted in favor of the process that had already been approved going forward over the filing of the request to bring it to a public vote. Now the opposition to that has taken it to the Oklahoma Supreme Court, and that's where it lies. So that's a lot of legal of where it is. We felt very, very good about this from day one. We're moving forward in conversations with the developer and the architect as if this is going to go forward. There's a lot of work to do, and it's very, very exciting for the city of Norman and Cleveland County in this area of the state of Oklahoma. And the arena will be the new home for men's and women's basketball and women's gymnastics. But as you know from following this, even all of our dates that we need, they're still basically 75% of the calendar year that the arena can be used for concerts, festivals, big shows, other sporting events, whatever, that can be brought to this area and focused on economic development. The entertainment district that's going with it provides a live, work, play uh, concept. So there's retail, uh, there's full-time residents, there's part-time residents, there are hotel operations, there are convention opportunities. So it's something meant to be a focal point, not just for the entertainment district itself, but bringing more and more people to Norman, more and more business and economic development, which leads to growth and more investment in our community. So we couldn't be more excited to be part of that and helping our city grow for the future.
Baseball, softball are in the middle of it right now in conference play. Hoops has wrapped up. Football's wrapped up. I mean, we're nearing the end of the first year in the SEC. How do you assess it? How's it gone? What's maybe been better than you thought? What's maybe been more challenging than you thought? How do you rate year one so far?
Well, we'd like to have won a lot more so far, but we knew we were stepping into the most competitive conference in the country. Um, we happened to hit it at a time when it is historically good um, from across the board. Whatever sport you're talking about, you're looking at big numbers of teams from the SEC being part of the top 10, top 15, certainly sprinkled throughout the top 25. We knew the challenge would be what it is, and that's what we ran to. That's where we want to be. That's the best place for Oklahoma. It wasn't an easy decision, after nearly 25 years or actually a little more in the Big 12. Um, this is one of the most significant decisions in the history of Oklahoma athletics. And it was about the future of where college athletics was going. Uh, we saw it, as we've said many times, as a way to be part of something very stable and something that is financially sustainable. And we couldn't totally predict how the world would change, but many of our predictions came to fruition. And feel very fortunate that Oklahoma's leadership as part of working with the SEC, so we could be a member and a proud member. And we went a year early because the world continued to change, even more so than when we saw when the announcement was made to join the SEC. Our programs are doing well. We're the time of year we're in right now, our baseball team's in the top 10. Obviously, women's softball's been number one, number two. Saying a lot for Patty Gasso to have four straight national championships and lose, historically great players. And, as we sit here, is 34-3. That's quite a rebuilding year.
Yeah.
Skip's 25-8. And we're playing several of the top 10, top 15 teams, not just in the SEC, but we've played some really great non-conference opponents and won some of those games. So feel really good about that. The other programs in the spring are doing well. We have our gymnastics team is number one in the country and actually was won our first ever SEC championship just a few weeks ago. So we're excited about being part of it. It's everything we thought it could be. It's a natural fit, and we're we're excited to continue to build our programs to be even stronger competitor. And even some of the sports that people don't talk about enough, like track and field, it competed exceptionally well in the SEC championship. So we really feel good about the future.
Last one for you, Joe, and we appreciate the time. You mentioned it. This thing is constantly changing. This system is changing. So right now, at this point in time, what is the best way for OU fans to support OU athletics right now?
Well, continue to be positive, be a positive voice for our athletic program, and attend as many of the events as they possibly can. That's one of our main sources of revenue. Um, and of course, there's nothing more motivating for our teams to play in front of packed houses, and we appreciate the fan base that we have and the way they support our program. So that's a big part of it. And as we've talked about earlier, we're sharing the revenue now. So uh, the components of revenue are ticket sales, conference revenue sharing, licensing, sponsorships, media. All of those are components of the revenue that we're going to share starting July 1st. So that helps us help our athletes. And they still get scholarships on top of that, So the fundraising that we do continues to help pay the scholarship bill. And if people are inclined to help, we have several facility projects. We're continuing to invest in those that they can make a contribution to the Sooner Club. Our Inspiring Champions Fund is part of the Sooner Club, and that's actually been, very, very popular now because up until just, recently, people who were wanting to help the athletes in the area of NIL and going through the collective, those were not tax deductible contributions. But if our fan base wants to help in that regard, now they can give the contribution directly to the University of Oklahoma, and it's 100% tax deductible and counts toward the giving levels like anything else that they've contributed to over the course of time. So that's really, really helpful. We do have a collective that's operating, One Oklahoma. You've talked about that on here before, I'm sure. And so there are opportunities to work directly with them. That's also the place where fans can subscribe to get access to special content that is developed for and by our athletes. That's a $15 a month subscription fee, if you will. And then finally, as we mentioned earlier in the pod, that we're seeking businesses that can align with our athletes and partner with them. They can compensate them to be part of it. And we've seen some of the best examples of our athletes partnering with businesses right now. And if you just look at our social media channels, you see quite a few of them doing commercials, getting involved in activities. We have I'm not going to be able to say who they are, I guess, because you don't, not messing with your own sponsors there, but,
No, no free
a
shout outs,
lawyer
Joe.
that has
No free
created
shout outs.
uh, we've got a longtime sponsor, a big law firm here that has created a court experience that is part of a advertising campaign where athletes go in the court and the lawyer is the judge and they debate the merits for or against on certain subjects. Um, there have been some crazy ones, but it's just an example of how people can engage with our athletes. And I think you're going to see more and more. Some people are seeing athletes involved. We're watching the Final Four right now. You see more current athletes involved in some of the national ads, and I think that's only going to grow. So those three things: attending events, of course, is the best way, and contributing something, toward athletes through our Sooner Club, which is 100% tax deductible, and then local businesses considering how they can get involved and connected with our athletes. And there are channels to do that. It's not hard, and we now can help facilitate that. So people are watching this and are interested. If they contact our department, we'll be the middle person and facilitate it for them.
Joe, you're the man. Thank you so much for the time.
My pleasure. Great to be on with you both.